Good afternoon. Welcome to the tea table. I am so happy you have joined me today. And we are unbelievably approaching the end of April. This month has gone so quickly, and I have worn something today that is still spring but looking toward summer. Yes, and a straw hat. And after Easter, traditionally, ladies can wear white and straw hats and linen. They used to have all these rules. You could not wear white gloves, white shoes, white hat, white purse until Easter. And then when we come to Labor Day, which is the end of August, they didn't wear that anymore. That was the window of spring, summer, Easter to Labor Day. Well, we follow traditions to a degree, but we're free people and we love every color, every season. And I've chosen a color today that is almost a salmon and dusty rose salmon, and I have a little rose here that is so beautiful. And so I tried to match, and you know, there are so many pinks. When the family of pinks, when I look at the china, I have different colored pinks. They vary, and this is really a salmon pink. And so I went to my china closet and I found a salmon pink cup. And it is, I will tell you what it is. It's England, Alexander. And it has a gold lining and it's so beautiful. I just have one cup like this, and I have a plate, like a salad plate. Let me show you the tea tray first, and then I'll talk about this plate. So here we are, and I've got the salmon pink with some of the nice Easter colors. I made for Easter Scarpa, my Norwegian cookie, but instead of putting the red and green Christmas sprinkles on, I put on Easter sprinkles. And I had a whole collection of turquoise, yellow, pink. These got kind of big. They're almost like a biscotti, but they have a little more butter in them, see? So please help yourself. Yes. Well, so I put them on the plate, the one plate I have that matches this beautiful cup. Well, I thought, what kind of a teapot am I going to have today? And I found a teapot that my dear friend Robin gave me many years ago. She probably doesn't remember. And it has a robin redbreast on it. And I thought, for the time of the singing of the birds. And this teapot, I'm pouring it with my left hand because, as I told you before, I have discovered every teapot has the design with the left hand, and I think it's because they are doing it for the lady who pours the tea gets to see the picture. And this is a robin and a pink petunia. Is two robins and one on the top. And a petunia. Isn't that just darling? And I have always loved robin redbreast. You know, I forgot the creamer, so I am going to have my tea black today. Oh my, that's good. My father always drank his tea black. He would put a little sugar in it. I learned to drink tea in England, and they always put a little milk in there, so that's what I have done. This is good though. So, when I was looking for this china cup in the china closet to find the color, and I put this together as a little tea tray with a gold tray, I found a very old cup. This is so old. This was, I believe, from my Scottish grandmother, and it says on it, a present. A present. And it has to be over 100 years ago. And it has the same colors that this lovely little teapot has. It has the blue, pink, and a little touch of the salmon. So I thought, this is for you. This is a present for you today. A cup of tea. So I wanted to put that on the tea table because it's fun to use when you have a little dish or a little something that is just one of a kind. You don't know what to do with it, but you like it. Well, a good use is for tea, seasonally particularly. And I thought, do I dare bring a straw purse? Well, somehow I thought this just looked so comfortable and nice with what I'm wearing. Even though the straw is different than the hat, it picks up the brown leopard. And this purse I've had for many years. It's the most wonderful purse because it just is open and you can put so much in it if you're traveling, going to the beach, going to a picnic, going to church, going anywhere. You can carry this purse. And it's almost like a little extra bag that you have with you to carry things, which is very nice when you're going out for the whole day. You need to bring a few more things along. I'm trying to get this straight. This is kind of unique, putting this with this, but it's fun. And I thought I have to sit outside today because it's too beautiful. We have now had the glories. I call them the glory, beauty, spring. It's still cold. I'm a little chilly out here, actually, but I can endure, and with my hot tea, I can make it. But it's still spring. And the rhododendrons, I'm going to bring a bouquet of rhododendrons for next tea talk. They are everywhere. They grow wild in our state. They love rain. And when I lived in Scotland and visited a family there, a beautiful family named the Gun Russells, I knew their son Neil. The father was a doctor and Neil was in medical school. Neil was a good friend, and I got to go to their house. They invited me to dinner. It was called Hazeleyburn, outside of Edinburgh. Now, people in England often name their houses, even little houses. I love it. Well, at Hazeleyburn, it was very much like Jane Austen, one of the smaller homes they lived in, but like a manor, not quite a manor house, but it was almost a manor house. It was very large. Maybe it was a manor house, but they were surrounded by acres and acres of land. They had sheep, and his mother had a little Victorian tea room, and they took me to that, and it was so beautiful. It was an old, several hundred years old building with not a very tall ceiling, and it was that Shakespeare-looking British home where you have the stucco white with the wood crisscrossing it, and inside it was stucco white with black trim, and all the tables had the beautiful red plaid tablecloths. and the Royal Stuart tablecloths. And she had an old oven there that they would, with a long, put the little cakes in and bring them out. Well, on Sunday afternoon, I was invited to their house again, and they had a gathering of friends and some various people from the church in different areas. And we were sitting in their massive living room. We call it a living room. It was like a great room. It seated about 25 to 30 people comfortably. And I'll never forget, she served tea to all of us with such grace. Now, she sat at her tea cart. She had a teapot about this big. It was huge. I mean, it's the biggest teapot I've ever seen. I don't know how she lifted it. And then she had these leftover cakes from her little Victorian tea room. And so they would be put on a plate the size of what we would consider a saucer or a bread plate. And she had about 25 of these sitting all under her tea cart all around. Everyone got one little cake and one cup of tea. And everything is so orderly in Great Britain. Everyone was so grateful. It seemed like more than enough. You know, Americans have these tables and tables of food, but this was so no muss, no fuss. It was gracious. We all had tea. And I remember we sat and sang, and I'll never forget this. We sang that beautiful Scottish hymn, the St. James air, which is "The Lord is my shepherd," put to music with the poetry from the Scottish Psalter. Well, it's like the national anthem of Scotland. Everyone knew it by heart. No one needed music. They were all singing. And then a little group of girls, kind of late teenage girls, were sitting here, and they did the descant, which is the over harmony, high harmony. Oh, I had cold chills. I have never heard anything so beautiful. This whole room erupting in music together. And then they sang many other songs, and it was a time of fellowship. And then I remember they had another room to the side, which was like the den/study, and that's where Neil had a cello, and there was a piano, so it was kind of their music room den, very large. Everything was large scale. When you walked in their house, because it was a country estate, that's what it was, country manor. The entryway was huge with a massive mudroom to the side. I mean, it was everyone's dream house, because we who live in the Pacific Northwest, we know what it is to have rain. When you have children, young people, men, women, anyone coming in, it's so nice to have a room. They could go remove their coat and have their shoes there if they were, because, you know, these people were really surrounded by acres and acres. That was one of my most special memories of having tea with a little cake. And I thought, why can't we be that simple? Serve each one a little cake. Really, in the past, I remember going to showers and special parties and events, and the lady would make one special dessert, and it was very special. One I remember that was made, this is in America, was some kind of cherries, and then a cream cheese, and then a whipped cream, and the cherries and crumbles. Very old recipe, she said. She cut very generous squares. Each one had a square and a cup of tea or coffee. That was it. Now, that makes serving and hostessing simple, not so complicated, because a high tea takes a lot more. But that could be considered a low afternoon tea, and it's very, very, very nice, especially when you can serve it from a small table or a tea cart. A tea cart is so nice. Well, And then to add to that story, the way I met Neil, I was in Scotland on a summer mission called Youth with a Mission. And we were staying in a little town called Port Seton, right on the sea. And the minister and his wife were on vacation in the family. So all the girls, we stayed in the manse, which is the parsonage or the minister's house. This was old, beautiful. Everything in Scotland is stone. It was such a wonderful house. And I remember them making gooseberry pie for us. And I had never seen it before. I've never seen it since, because it was green berries, the size of grapes, the color of green grapes, but a little more yellow, in the sugar sauce in a pie crust. And it was so good. We had never had anything like that. Well, food was sparse there, and sparse. It was very sparse. And so you really enjoyed what you had, and you were very grateful. We were on a mission trip, and so we were like depending on, to a degree, ourselves, but others. And so we learned a lot. You become very grateful very quick. Well, the way I had met Neil was my other friend, his cousin Ian, who was part of our mission, and his father was an architect, and he was in architect school. It was very interesting. Well, Ian became my friend, and he dressed up in his full Scottish outfit, and he said, I want you to meet my friend, my cousin, Neil. And so that's how we met. I met Neil, and then took the girls with me, and we all met Neil Gunn Russell and his family. But Ian invited me to stay with his parents and meet them one day. So I went to another house in Edinburgh. Now, his father was an architect. This was an incredible home, a very large, oversized stone house that you entered. Everything was vintage, antique, velvet, maroon, tapestry, forest green. And they were very formal, very polite, very reserved, but they gave me a room. He had to go somewhere else, so his parents said, they gave me the guest room, and I'll never forget it. It was a 4-poster antique mahogany bed with forest green velvet and satin bedspread. It looked just like something out of Masterpiece Theater. It was so glorious. Well, then they said, you must have tea. They're very formal. They have, before they go to bed, tea, and they have a tea cart, and they offered hot chocolate. They called it postum, hot milk, or you could have, I don't know if this tea had caffeine or not, but hot water and maybe a little bun, very simple. And so I sat with them, the parents, in their sitting room. They were very formal and very nice. And then the next day, Ian came back and he took me upstairs, because this was a townhouse, so everything was layered. Whereas at Neil's, it was more spread out. They had a music room that was so big. I've never been in a music room as grand as that. They had a grand piano, and Ian played violin. They had violin. They had chairs sitting. Everything was my taste. Vintage antiques, and beautifully done, and so inspiring. Beautiful paintings. That was a real, true, genuine experience like a tourist never gets. Until you get into the homes of the people, you don't really know the country. And we were able to get into many homes. The people would invite us for tea. Another very sweet lady, Mrs. Howie, over in Port Seton, she invited me in for tea. And I thought, well, it's a cup of tea. Her table was laden with so much, and it was just for me. I was so humbled. I was so moved. And she was so generous. She gave me a little Bible. I still have it. Beautiful black leather, small Bible. She gave me a little copper dish. She had been a missionary in Africa to a leper colony, yes, for like 50 years. And she had come back. She was retired and she was living in her little house by the sea, overlooking the sea. And I just treasured. In fact, she gave me 2 cups and saucers also. She kept giving me things. I mean, she was just over the top. And somehow I packed them in my clothes, got them home, and I actually gave that Bible to my mother, and she used it. She said, this is the most wonderful Bible. It's so small. It fit in her purse, and yet it had large print. She could read it. And then when my mother passed, I took it back, and now I have it. And so I think of Mrs. Howie. And you know, what I'm thinking here on the Tea Talk is, my mother used to say, we only keep what we give away. You give your love to someone, it will come back, but it will stay. You give a good word. You give kindness. You give a cup of tea. You give a portion of daily bread. And we have more than enough. And everything grows when you give. There is an absolute principle. The more you give, the more you have. It is depicted in when Jesus fed the 12,000 and took 2 little loaves and 3 little fishes, and it fed everyone. And that's what I'm going to close with, a verse that we all know from the Lord's Prayer. And this is the verse. Give us this day our daily bread. Now, growing up, all I could think of was a big loaf of bread, or I would think of communion or something. But as I got older and I studied, Martin Luther explains that in the Small Catechism very clearly. He said, my daily bread is your shoes, your house, your car. Well, he didn't have a car. He said your horse, all the things you need to live in this world now. That is what the daily bread is. And so as we give to others, God gives back to us. It's part of a flow. Isn't it wonderful? And it is not always material things. It's not always money. The most important thing is your love, your heart, your kindness, your goodness. Giving someone a good word is pure gold. And it vibrates. It vibrates with the universe. It does. Do you know, I have heard it said, if someone says a negative word, it takes, I believe, 50 to 100 good words to wipe it out. So don't speak negative words, because that is not faith. When we speak positive good words, that means we have faith, and we believe that everything is going to work out for good, because we trust God. Well, I'm just suddenly aghast. All the trees suddenly are full here. The deciduous trees are full of leaves overnight. As soon as the sun comes, everything starts blooming. So when we give sunshine, people start blooming. Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, push the notification bell, and the like if you liked it, and a comment I love, and the rest will be history. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a fabulous week. And next week, May 1st, is National Day of Prayer all across America. So try to find a gathering in your community and attend, because it's very happy, beautiful gathering. And generally they're outside and the flowers are just now blooming, and it's a very happy, good event. There is an event in the Rotunda, May 1st, 7 o'clock in our capital in Olympia. Everyone is welcome. Thank you so much. Have a fabulous week. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time.